still hear me? Just checking. Sound check. Okay, Luca, just check that your speakers aren't muted on your computer and also on Teams. Classic online meeting problems. Okay. Great, as I was saying, all right, welcome to session 2. I'm actually going to share some slides, and I think that means the whiteboard will remain somewhere. Later use. Okay, so how are we all doing, guys? Is everyone good? Are there any questions or issues that anyone would like to raise in the beginning? We do some housekeeping. There, Kirsty. Can you put your email address here? Yes. Oh, it should be on Arc. But yes, I will, and I'll check why that's not there. There it is. Is there a WhatsApp group? Is there a WhatsApp group, guys? If you have a WhatsApp group, you're welcome to share the join link here on this chat. I don't join WhatsApp groups as a lecturer, but I encourage it as you guys as a class to have one. Yeah, Courtney, do you want to ask a question?
Hi, sorry. I just wanted to ask quickly. I did an ICE task this morning. I did send you a mail through ARC, but I have no idea if it was received or not.
Oh, about the quiz questions, answers.
Yes.
I
I
did get
got
that, and
super
I thought I had replied.
confused.
Yeah,
I don't see anything, like I'm opening it and there's nothing there. So I don't know if like it's an issue from my side. I really have no idea, but like it's not showing me any responses or anything.
And which quiz is this? Because like there are
It was
two.
the first one.
Oh, okay. Is anyone else having an issue with the first ICE task quiz? That may help in this area.
I don't know if it was the first or the second one. Let me just open this quickly.
Yeah, I'm also
So the issue was in the screenshot that I sent you.
Mm-hmm.
I got an 80%, which means 2 of the questions were wrong. But then when I went back, the answer that it gave me was exactly what I answered, and it marked it wrong.
Yeah, I don't understand. I'm very confused about that as well. So I'm gonna have to go and like check the settings of the quiz because I mean before I had like released it, I had checked and the correct answers were correct, right? And so it perplexes me as well. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I'll have to investigate it and I'll ask our ed tech to have a look and see why it's flagging those because they're definitely correct. Like especially like the screenshot you sent me. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so Kirsty as well. Also the last question. Interesting. Okay, I will. Yeah, I'll definitely. I'm gonna log a thing, and I'll try and have a chat with our ed tech tomorrow to figure out why it's doing that. And then, yeah, I believe you do have unlimited attempts at this. So once we've figured out and it should all be correct, then I'll let everyone know and you can, attempt it again if you want to get 100%. But yeah, also remember that because it's an ICE task, so the fact that you completed it will give you the like percentage for that ICE task. And the actual score doesn't matter. But I mean that is frustrating, obviously. And so I'll definitely investigate that.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I lost my signal there for a second. I was just very confused because then I don't really know how I'm supposed to answer it if it's correct. And then maybe the system wants me to add spaces or I have no idea.
Yeah, because I know the one was the fill in the blank one, and then the other one was the matching one, right? So that's why yeah, I'll have to see. Are there any issues with the other quiz that's ICE task 4? I see there have been some attempts. Has anyone had the same issues with that one? Is it sounding like a quiz setting issue? Mm, not yet. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, thanks again for sharing. And I'll be on that pronto. Very confusing. Okay, Kirsty, so is that for the ICE task 4 as well? So the other quiz? Yes. Okay. There must be a glitch happening with this some of the types of questions. So I'll have to just have a look at that and fix it. Okay. Thank you for flagging. Ooh. Any other questions or issues? Yeah, I see there's been some engagement with the ICE tasks already, which is great. How are you finding the other ones? ICE tasks 2 and 3, different types? Those of you that have attempted, did you enjoy it? Did you hear? Any managed first one so far? No problem at all. Lovely. Okay, cool. Yes, Kirsty. So this is actually what I wanted to address now as well. So the assignment brief is not there because they haven't released the actual assignment documents yet for this module. I've been checking every day on the tertiary hub, so on where you guys would find it on student materials as well. And then so I did ask the person in charge of the module, and they are new assignments for this module in this like series. And so they are apparently going to be the first one's apparently going to be released on the 14th, which is now on Friday. And so yeah, as soon as that drops, we'll be able to access it, and then I will do the video over the weekend and post it on Monday, so that you guys can have access to that. Yeah, so it is there. It's not there because it hasn't been released yet. It's a national thing. We're all waiting on it. Okay, but at least the first assignment is only due on the 22nd of April, so there's still a fair amount of time before that needs to happen. Okay. Right. Okay. Let's move on to what we all came here for. So we're starting learning unit 2, which is a great one. It is just a little bit, I suppose, like biologically dense, because it's based all on this whole idea of heredity and genetics and how genes are passed on from parent to child and down lineage and things like that. And really the most salient points that you should take at the end of the learning unit is all about the gene environment interactions, and what that means, how that comes about, and that sort of thing. But we will get there, Nana. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on kind of a couple of key concepts, and then you would have seen, Anna, there was a whiteboard. We're going to just like fill that in as a bit of an activity just now. Making sure that we can, apply these ideas of heredity. So yeah, but first of all, I did want to just chat about, as a matter of history and context, and yeah, context really, and discussion around this idea of heredity and genetics, and really fundamental to our understanding of genetics now and how they're passed on, and therefore, how we're evolving as a species, or how all species are evolving, is Darwin's evolutionary theory. So if you aren't familiar with the actual theory, I mean, I don't blame you. That's, it's not really part of many of your modules. But really, I just wanted to make sure everyone has a kind of a broad understanding of Darwin's evolutionary theory. And you may have heard the term natural selection before, which essentially is the strongest of a species survive. Survival of the fittest is another phrase you may have heard that comes from Darwin. I mean, there's a joke that people often, when someone makes a silly mistake, they'll go, Darwin Award, or and they're referring to natural selection in that case. You mean like, only the strongest survive, and that can be interpreted in terms of intelligence and stuff as well. Bit of a mean joke, but I mean, I'm sure someone here has at least encountered that at some point. And so really that is where this comes from. And yeah, it's the idea, and just, focusing on this diagram here is just a bit of context. So we know about this thing called microevolution. And yes, it will sound a lot like high school bio. I think evolution is covered somewhere in metric, for those of you who did biology in high school or natural sciences. Um, anyway, so yeah, microevolution, we understand that populations tend to overproduce. We produce a lot of offspring so that there will be some survivors. In essence, it's like that initial theory is that overwhelm the system and some will survive. And because it creates that competition over resources because of overpopulation. The world is currently suffering from that in a big way. But even evolutionarily, it's always happened. And then there's this there's this notion that some of that's inherited variability, so variations of genes. What sets the stronger amongst us apart from the weaker, evolutionary speaking. And then so this microevolution is the theory that those little, so little evolutions take place over time to increase the probability of survival of humans. And like an example of that is the way that humans evolved to be bipedal, so to walk upright, that kind of thing. Okay, the next we understand macroevolution, okay, and the theory of descent. And so this, yeah, very much high school bio, and it's like where this famous diagram comes from. And it's just the idea that we all are linked by some common ancestor genetically, okay, through evolution. I'm not going to run through all the different types of hominids and things, but as a species, genetically, we have a common ancestor somewhere in the lineage of evolution. Okay. And then we've evolved into what we know as the current modern Homo sapien through all of these different processes. Okay. I don't know if any of you have ever read the book Sapiens. Actually, it's behind me. Yeah. I'm a visual learner. This one, Sapiens. It's quite cool. If you're interested in evolution and like the history of humans and stuff. Anyway, book recommendation aside, yeah, this now what we understand of Darwinism and actualism is that this macroevolution, we can explain that by incidences of the microevolution. So evolution that is spurned on, that's activated by that competition, the need to survive in a place where there aren't enough resources for everyone. So you need to get stronger. And then in combination with that, the environmental changes, the environmental influences. And then that is sufficient to account for this macroevolution. So, how we evolved from said common ancestor. And that is that theoretically. Okay. And really just you're not going to be asked on what is Darwin's evolutionary theory. That's not what's going to happen. It's really just an understanding that genes are passed down and they evolve and change over time. Yeah, it's just if you probably have seen this little diagram of like the theory of descent. So the theory is like giraffes, why their necks are so long serves an evolutionary purpose so that they can reach the leaves at the top of tall trees and therefore eat and survive. And so giraffes born with short necks would therefore die out because they would starve. And yeah, like a wild reduction of that theory, but essentially this is what we understand as natural selection. Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I just wanted to then go over the heredity as a concept. So when we talk about heredity or inherited traits, it's that idea that these traits, so genetic traits is what we're talking about, are passed down from parents to offspring, etc., through the generations. Okay. And yeah, like again, flashbacks to bio, those of you who did bio in high school, you would have seen like kind of these sorts of diagrams, and we're going to kind of break this down in a later slide of how, yeah, genes and traits are expressed down the line. Okay, so when we're talking about traits, we're talking about genetic traits. We're talking about both physical characteristics, such as eye color, height, hair color, I mean, everything, like the pattern of your teeth, dimples, all of it, head shape, okay, the physical characteristics that are shaped by genetics, and then also biological attributes, so things that we can't see necessarily, like on a molecular level, so changes in DNA and chromosomes and things like that, and obviously what, happens with that is diseases. We can't necessarily see a disease with the naked eye. We can see symptoms, yes, but the actual thing, no, and so that is the biological traits that are passed through, well, the biological attributes of a trait, of a genetic trait. Before I click to the next slide that gives the answer, does anyone who's done the reading or perhaps remembers what is the word that we use to refer to these physical characteristics of genes? It starts with a P. Phenotypes. Yes, we have a winner. Nice. Good job. Absolutely. And then, so the other one, what do we use for the biological attributes? Genotypes. Correct. So yeah, phenotypes versus genotypes. Okay. Cool. I'm now going to share the whiteboard. Everyone should be able to play on this whiteboard. There it is. Yeah, so just before you guys all joined, I just set up a brief little template for us to play around with. And so I don't know if you guys have encountered the whiteboard on Teams with any of your other lecturers yet, but it's really fairly easy to figure out. So you'll see at the bottom there's that bar, and it's got the little like selector arrow and the little hand. So if you click the hand, you can then drag your screen around. So to scroll down, you've got the zoom on the right-hand side, you've got reactions, and really what you're going to be using are the sticky notes for this exercise. So you can, I've just put some here to get us started, but you can click on the sticky notes and then choose a color and literally just click where you want to paste it. And so I think let's start on the left-hand side with this question. So do you have any traits that you share with members of your family? Okay, so yeah, whatever you guys like, phenotypes, or if you have knowledge of a genotype, I mean, cool, and you want to share that. But I imagine phenotypes is what we're going to be speaking about. But yeah, do please label what that is for us. And yeah, it can be anonymous, like you don't have to put your name there. Uh, yeah, take a few minutes. If anyone's struggling with how to use the whiteboard, just let me know. Help you out. Box a bit bigger. Cool, looking interesting so far. I think you can also make your sticky note bigger if you need to. Yeah, you click on it and you can drag it. Oh, okay. Those of you who have answered that first one already, I'm actually just going to move the second question and make another little box for it over here. I think it's a bit easier. This is so chaotic with everyone doing things at the same time. I kind of love it. Okay, there we go. We've got a box for the second question. Okay, there we go. Yeah. I'm just going to make that clear because that's distracting. There you go. Yeah, actually, absolutely. It's like watching everyone's names move around is so distracting. Ah. I feel like I need to be playing some background music. Yeah. Yeah. So the second question is interesting. What distinguishes you from the rest of your family? Because I mean, it's usually quite easy to see, familial traits and things you have in common. But yeah, we'll get to what I'm getting at with this one now. But yeah, just because it happens, sometimes things get expressed that aren't necessary, that not, everyone else in your family has, for instance. Ashton, yeah, good question. I think let's go with, yeah, more like biological, like physical traits, phenotypes. Personality is different, different type of traits when it comes to, yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Well, there are arguments that personality is hereditary. But I mean, it could be significant. Like if you have a wildly different personality to the rest of your family, that's interesting. We can chat about that. I think we've got enough to go off of for a discussion for now. With those of you still busy, please do continue. Uh, cool. Let's have a look at some of these examples. Yeah, okay, let's talk about phenotypes first. All right, so yeah, we've got things like shape of nose. Yeah, so common shapes of noses. Big eyes, interesting traits. It's up, yeah, facial structure. Okay, so you got like similar facial structures with your family. It's funny because that's something that's not always necessarily very obvious. So it's really interesting. Eye color, height. Height is sometimes something that's different for people. One person in your family will randomly be short, for instance. It happens. Cool. Yeah, some of you are saying mix of both parents, so that's also interesting. We're going to chat about that now, how the mixing happens. Okay, genotypes. I mean, it's amazing that you guys have been able to identify some of those. Yeah, so a lot of this is like predisposition to some conditions. So yeah, certain cancers, um, hypertension, high blood pressure, that's yeah, hypertension. That's what we got here for genotypes. Yeah, diabetes is hereditary. Type O negative, yo, that's rare. And is, yeah, like recessively passed down. So that's why it's rare. Good to know. Anyone needs blood? Um, yeah, certain cancers again. Awesome. What have we got on the other side here? What's distinguishing some of us from our family members? Cool. Skin color. Interesting. Hair tie. Yeah. Build. Yeah, build is sometimes something that can be different as well. And also very, like, I mean, there's such a wide variety of expressions as well on that. Smile, that's interesting. So yeah, the way that your teeth are set, yeah, absolutely is a phenotypic trait. Extroverted personality, that's interesting. So, like, who posted this? Too small, I can't see. Who like are the rest of your family introverts? And I mean, this is actually worth discussing at this point, right? Because when it comes to personality and the general understanding that we have about personality, if you guys have covered that in previous modules so far, is, like we understand that certain personality traits are kind of hereditary, like the ocean model, for instance, there is an element of hereditability in that theory. But then also understanding that the environmental conditions, like how you're socialized, the your family's like culture and experiences and things, really has an influence on your personality traits and personality types as well. Personality. A lot of us feeling like the oddballs of personality in our families. Interesting that we're all drawn to psychology, isn't it? Body type. Green eyes and the rest of your family have either brown or blue. That's an excellent example for recessive traits, Kirsty. Yes. Also, Courtney, I see in the chat both your sister and you are type O, but your parents aren't. Odd. I mean, I'm not a biologist, but interesting. That must be it must be a very recessive, kind of trait that's expressed there. Okay, so I've been talking a lot about these things around traits being recessive or dominant. So let's chat about that. I'm just trying to find the slide over here. Okay, let me share. The whiteboard won't disappear and I can share it afterwards. So you guys are more than welcome to keep adding to that and reacting and things. Okay, so dominance and recessive traits. Have you guys heard of these terms before this? Well, I mean, if you've done the reading, lovely. But, how familiar are we with dominant traits, recessive traits? Yeah. Okay, so essentially, I'm just going to sum up really what this is all about. Is that dominant traits are characteristics, so traits, being either these phenotypes or genotypes, things that are expressed is what we say in genetic, terms. So those traits that are expressed and they appear commonly down the family tree, right? So like if my dad had brown eyes, I have brown eyes. If my kid has brown eyes, we can safely assume that that brown-eyed trait was dominant because it was expressed every time that someone was produced, right? But then a recessive trait, it means that both of, I'm going to talk about chromosomes now, but both sets of genes coming in from the egg and the sperm when fertilization happens need to possess those recessive traits or alleles as well to form of a gene. And then in order for that to have a higher chance of being expressed. Okay, so let me just go back a step. I accidentally skipped over this, but yeah, so genes are just a segment of DNA, and what's quite important here is to understand that you can have genes that are not activated in your DNA, in your makeup. If you go and do one of those very expensive genetic screenings or whatever, you can get varying results and things, and the very sophisticated ones can kind of tell you, which traits are active and things. But yeah, like this says here, it's always a good phrase to remember. Like just like words, a gene has meaning only when the correct letters are used. Okay, so if you just think about the way that we use words and language, there's a particular arrangement of letters then generates that meaning for something in a word, right? the same thing is true for genes. There must be a specific pattern and, genetic makeup that must coincide to activate the genes. That's all very complicated. In terms of biology and genetic science, you don't need to know that nitty-gritty things, but just that genes get activated when a specific, pattern is present when DNA is combined. Okay. And then chromosomes. All right. So I'm sure everyone's heard of chromosomes. We all have them. They are really what make up your DNA. And as humans, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Okay, chromosomes always appear in a pair, and they look kind of like this under a microscope, these little X squiggle things. And then what you're probably most familiar with is the 23rd pair of chromosomes that we have are the sex chromosomes. That's what determines the sex you are born with biologically, right? Whether you are male with male genitalia at birth or female with female genitalia at birth, or of course, when hermaphrodity occurs and you're born with bits of both. That is a chromosomal, very rare chromosomal occurrence. Okay. Females have XX chromosomes and then males have XY chromosomes. Okay, so just when it comes to understanding this recessive and dominant traits business that we're going to break down now, and just those of you who haven't done bio before, I know it can be a bit like of an overload of info, so that's why I'm gonna do an example. But yeah, like just remember this picture. You get the set of genes on the one side from your dad, and the set of genes on the other side from your mom biologically, and then there's this combination through fertilization that is you. Congratulations. And that is, yeah, that's why we really consider genetic makeup to be this miracle, because it's just such a random occurrence that, this particular sperm cell happened to meet that particular egg on that particular day, and that resulted in you and your genes. Okay, a different cell, a different day, different pairing, possibly you would look different and sound different, and yeah, etc. Okay. Okay, we've covered that. All right, so these tables, yeah, you may be familiar. Okay, so this one is looking at eye color as an example. Just have a look at this key so you understand the symbols that are active over here, but they're also helpful pictures. Okay, so the big B is representative of a dominant gene. So the capital letter in all of these tables, no matter what you're looking at, the capital is the dominant trait. So in this instance, the brown eye color trait is dominant, which it is. And then so we have one parent here that who, if we had somehow found out their genetic makeup, they have the dominant brown eye gene, and they also are a carrier for a recessive blue eye trait. Okay. But because this dominant trait is present, so the dominant brown eye, you can see that person has brown eyes. That is what was expressed. Yeah. So essentially there was a 75% chance, possibly, of that happening for this person. And then this is what, the chances are of these children that would happen from this pairing. So this other parent has the same combination. There's a dominant trait is present for brown eyes, and then the trait for blue eyes is present, but it is a recessive trait. And so essentially how these tables work is that you kind of cross-section these things. So if we combine a big B here and a big B there, what would be expressed would be brown eyes, because that's the dominant trait there, okay? And there's no recessive traits at all in this one. Okay, and then we've got the combination in both of these instances. Over here, we've got the big B little b and the big B little b. Okay, so now this is really the understanding of the dominant trait versus recessive trait thing. So because even though this recessive trait is present here, only one of them would be present in this instance. And so therefore the expression of this gene would be of that dominant trait. And in this instance, the kid would have brown eyes as that is being expressed. Okay, and then there is a 25% chance that whenever cells of these two people fuse and fertilize, that they could produce a blue-eyed baby, because there's a 25% chance of both recessive traits being present and activated. Okay, so little b would result in the expression, or the phenotypical, expression of blue eyes. So yeah, those of you who, like the rest of your family, for instance, may have brown eyes or something, and you've got green eyes. Green is also it's rare, and it's just recessive and has to, be a very specific combination in order to be expressed. So it would mean that your parents had to be, both of your parents had to at least be a carrier, or at least one of your parents had to be a carrier for you to have been. Well, no, both. They would both have to be carriers. So possess this trait, but it's not expressed, in order for you to appear with your green eyes, or blue, I mean, in this instance. Okay, and then this is just another, on the right-hand side, like just look at this now separately. This is just another example, but in this instance, we've got a blue-eyed person, so that means that they have little b, because it's recessive, and that's what's expressed. Now reproduces with a brown-eyed person, and this brown-eyed person happens to be a big B, little b. See how the odds change in the expression of the blue eyes in this instance? Yeah, because there's more of the recessive trait present. So it increases the probability of that trait being expressed. So yeah, it's a 50-50 shot in this case. And like, just, for interest's sake, if this one had been a big B person, which is, it happens all the time. People just aren't carriers for that recessive gene. Then none of these blocks would be an expression of blue eyes, because there wouldn't be the recessive trait present on both sides. I realize I just said many words so many times, but the take-home message is that both parents must possess this recessive allele, in order for there to be a chance of that recessive trait being expressed. Okay. And you can imagine how, this is how we can work out things like chances of hereditable disorders and diseases and things being expressed, if as long as, geneticists can figure out that code for that gene. Oh, let me just check the chat if I missed anything. Yeah. Okay, awesome. We are nearing the end, so I don't want to launch into the whole next bit. We can cover it next time. And there is also ice task. The ice tasks does cover it as well. So yeah. But are there any questions? Do you guys have any questions or comments about this stuff? Anyone want to discuss, like what we were talking about on the whiteboard? Any questions? Confusion? Show the whiteboard again in case anyone wants it. Oops, wrong button. Any questions at all on any content? Yeah. While you're thinking, just to recap. So yeah, the assessments documents haven't been released on the system yet. They should be being released on, well, the first one on the 14th, and then I think the second one is the week after that or something. But yeah, so I will make the video over this weekend and release it by Monday, so that you guys have access to that as soon as possible. And then closer to the time of the hand-in, we'll have a Q&A session. Well, at least a part of a session will be dedicated to the Q&A around the first assignment. Okay, it's due on the 22nd of April, so that will likely be the session that we have before that, which will be the 9th of April. Don't worry, I'll communicate it closer to the time. Are these collab videos on the YouTube channel? Yeah, they should be. Well, I mean, this one I'll upload, but the other one should be. If it's not showing, I'll go and check to see if maybe it's may have not made it visible yet. But I also did upload it as an MP4 onto Arc. So you can, there's a unit near the bottom that says lecture recordings, and you can find it there, and I'll put this one there as well. But yeah, they will present themselves on YouTube, as well as you'll see on the YouTube channel previous recordings from when I've taught this module before. So you can always have a gander through those if you want. I mean, you know, obviously different things come up all the time, so could be worth it if you're into that. Just ignore anything you might find about previous assessments though, because you guys as a cohort have different assessments this year, this semester. Okay. Alrighty. That's a wrap then, unless anyone has anything to say or ask. Hope the session was helpful. Yeah, and just go and get to your ICE tasks. If you haven't yet, at least do the first one. They'll be due around midway through May. Awesome. Have a lovely evening and rest of the week. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Oh, again, just guys, do you have a WhatsApp group for the class? Doesn't appear so. If you want to make one, someone wants to make one, you're welcome. Yeah, if someone makes one, you can send me the link and I'll post it in an announcement so then everyone can join. Right? Have a good one.